Hello.
Hey, we're here.
Oh man,
What's
thank you
up?
guys again for tuning in. Welcome back to another week of Reptile Hangouts podcast. Hope everybody's been doing all right, and we are super excited to get underway with today's episode. However, we do need to go back to what we spoke on briefly last week, and we got to talk a little bit more about what's going on with the US ARK and trying to fight this Lacy Act. Nick, why don't you tell us about that?
Absolutely. We always plug USARK around here. We love USARK. They are the only organization in this country that's fighting for our rights to be able to keep these animals. I say it every week. I'm going to steal from some other people and say that if you're not a member, you definitely need to become a member. I mean, being a member of USARK is like paying your dues as a reptile keeper. These guys are constantly combing through the legislation and looking for things like what we're dealing with right now, which is what I'm going to talk about in a second, to keep us protected and keep us being able to do the things that we love and work with these animals. So last week I mentioned briefly the America Competes Act, which is HR 4521. It's a big, huge, giant bill. It's around 3,000 pages long, which most of these things are. And buried deep within that bill, basically right in the middle, is a section on Lacy Act amendments. So I want to be clear. Dave Kaufman did a live stream the other night with Phil Goss, from US ARK, and he was making some really good points. We're not trying to destroy the America Competes Act. It's an economic document that they've chosen to bury some, Lacy Act amendments in. We're trying to get rid of those Lacy Act amendments. It's extremely important that, if you're a member of USARK, that you get involved. Even if you're not a member of USARK, which you should be, get involved. Go to usark.org and check out, their section that shows you how to get in touch with your state senators and make contact. Send a letter, write an email, make a phone call. The more pressure we put on and the more awareness we bring to them in this matter, the better it's going to be. The fact is, in any given state, your senator, your representative may not even know exactly what's in this document. So we have to bring it to their attention so that we can get it taken care of. I'm not going to go in. We don't have a lot of time. We have a guest. I'm not going to go into all the details of it. I did that last week. If you want to know more about it, go to USARK. They have it all laid out for you. You can also go to Dave Kaufman's channel and rewatch his live with Phil Goss and Ryan and Erica McVeigh. They talk about the whole thing. So check that out.
Sweet.
Right.
Now it's time for the quick little weekly updates. Anybody got anything special going on?
I do. I mean,
all right, do it.
I just picked up
Pick you, Gabe.
a beautiful pair. Well, just a beautiful pair of Chinese water dragons. That's like
Very nice.
A project that I've been looking forward to working on. It's close to my heart. It's probably one of the first reptiles I've ever had. So it's something that I've really been wanting to get back into. And finally, I had an adult female that I've had for, a little while. And I was finally able to get a male. And, well, it took the opportunity to get another female. So now I got a 1.2 group. I'm excited. And hopefully soon, in a couple of years, we'll be able to produce them.
Awesome, man. Good stuff.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. My weekly update is still pissed off. Can't find dubious. I can find them. They're just never as advertised. So annoying. It's so why? You get online. It's right there. 100 of them. There's a picture. It's the size of a quarter. That's exactly what I need. Buy now. They show up. They're the size of a grain of fucking rice. Very annoying.
Oh my goodness.
I see like 15 of them every feeding. It's so bad.
Hey man.
Gotcha.
Well, that's you get it under control. You need to just start a colony.
Yeah, well, I got enough now.
Yeah, you could do it.
I got roughly 100 pea-sized dubious.
All right. It's going to be a while to grow them up.
I know. What do you got for us, Nick?
Not a whole lot new going on around here, gecko-wise. Just taking care of everything, and got my pairs still paired up. They'll be paired up for another week or two, and hopefully we'll start getting some eggs in the next month or so. Other than that, I'm vending a reptile show in the morning, and I am still not fully prepared, so I'll be doing that after I get off of here, and probably well into the morning before I leave. So,
all right.
Dropping the ball on that, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't have much else going on.
Sounds good. Well, it's that time of the week, guys. Introduce our wonderful guests here. We have Kyle and Krystal from Gekkonidazed joining us here tonight. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going, guys?
Come on, guys.
Howdy.
All right.
What do you got going on behind you in those cages? Those are some pretty setups.
Thank you. These are just normal Exoterras, 12 by 12 by 18s. We have crested geckos and then a couple Chihuahua here in this specific rack. But this is only a small portion of what we have in the basement here.
Oh, sweet. And that was actually another question I had for you, because it seems to be the popular thing amongst reptile breeders is homes with basements. So
Yeah.
you were part of that group as well.
No, this is the best place in the house for our purposes and everything. It was one of the biggest rooms. It's away from everything else. We also have dogs and cats. So to be able to lock everything away and not have access for all the other critters, this was the best room in the house, and it's big enough, and we can put everything in here. So it just works out the best. Anything upstairs just wouldn't have worked the same.
Yeah,
I feel you on that one. I got geckos all over my apartment.
Yeah, it gets out of control really easy.
Right.
How many animals do you think you got on site?
Oh boy, it's been a while since we last counted, but between all the adults, all the juveniles, random species, stuff like that, I think we're at probably around 320 or so, 350 max. But yeah, that's including everything from morning geckos up to leechies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a lot of things for sure.
Yeah.
I love how when we ask that question, every time we ask that question, or anybody asks that question to a serious reptile breeder, they never have an exact answer. You know,
No.
it's like
No. Yeah.
They can get close, but
Right. Yep. But it fluctuates. I mean, during right now coming out of, well, I mean, it's not even spring yet, but we had a lot of stuff that hatched late fall and also in the winter that, we can't ship out, nothing goes anywhere. So this is our high point. In the spring when we can start shipping stuff out, we'll be more in the maybe 240, 250 range, something like that. But we always have plenty of stuff around.
Gotcha.
Somebody's got an unhappy cat.
Yeah, that would be gay.
Oh, she's in heat. And I got a cat in the house. She's nuts.
There she goes.
Yeah.
That's why I said, don't feel bad if you hear your dog's.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. So, we want to ask about. We always ask about you guys' start. Where'd y'all get your start in reptiles? We obviously looked into you a little bit, so we have a little bit of an idea. But yeah,
Sure.
Have you always been that guy?
I have always been that guy. I remember the very first toad that I ever found when I was 4 years old. And things just, I don't know what it was, but I was always interested in toads, frogs, snakes, all that sort of stuff. Kind of grew up on a farm that had some farm ponds, and there were frogs everywhere, toads, things like that. But was always interested in it, would seek them out, go field herping, stuff like that as I was a kid, teenager, young adult in college, whatever, that sort of thing. And then in college, finally started getting some of my own geckos. Being out on my own and everything, it was prime time to just start buying some things, trying some things. And that's where Krystal kind of got involved also. We started dating back in our sophomore year of college.
You better get that right. No.
What was that?
Get that right, he says. The exact time.
No complaints here on that.
Yeah, and then I think it was sometime junior year of college, so maybe 2005-ish, I think, something like that, that I ordered my first group of what was back then kind of like mislabeled as like, I think they call them Chondrodactylus turneri, which ends up being like Pachydaktylus vibrani or whatever the heck whatever the
geckos
nomenclature is on it now. But I got a small group of those, stashed them away in my dorm room. Nobody knew anything about it. Except for when there'd be crickets hopping down the hallway and everybody's like, where are these things coming from? Well, it was me. But started off with those, and then kind of progressed later. I think 2007, we bought our first pair of crested geckos, and then it's exploded since. So this year, we started, I think, like January 1st or January 2nd, we started pairing some of the Chihuahua. So this is the start of our 15th breeding season.
Wow. We've been at it a long time.
Yeah. Yep. But I've always been interested in reptiles and amphibians. Krystal has never been opposed to them, but never really to the same degree as me. But we both got involved with the geckos pretty heavily. So we co-own this and we do it all together, and we each kind of have our own specific roles, I suppose. I mean, I do a lot of the photography, and Krystal does a lot of the website sort of stuff and whatnot. And there you can hear our dog now.
Yeah.
But, we definitely take care of this together, and it's good to be a couple in this.
Good, yeah, for sure.
That's something that I can
agree right there, man. That's living it.
Let's see, my woman's an enabler, so
yeah.
just get it. That's their saying over there.
Just do whatever you want.
Sometimes I think it's worse to be a couple because there's nobody pumping the brakes on it, and so like when one of us sees something we want, we'll double check with the other person, but we already know it's a yes.
Yeah.
So
we're like, ooh, that's pretty. And we'll end up with it.
Good call on that.
It's like I'm gonna say yes, but I'm gonna make sure just real quick.
Yeah. I have the supportive wife and also the one that doesn't always say yes. That always says no more often than not. Especially now because we're pretty much out of space. So
that's a real concern. It really is. Space is.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I'm actually back into keeping as heavy as I am is my wife. And she's like she's so cute, man. She's like, I like it. I want one of those. And she was bugging about a chameleon. And I was like, no, chameleons are hard. We don't need a chameleon. And then, of course, somebody she used to know needed one rescued. So then we got into that. And now I have 2 of them, working on 3. And just setups and Miss Kings and lights and shit. And this is like just months. This was just a few months ago.
Sure. Yeah, that's how it happens, man.
It's just evolved so quickly. It's bad.
Yep.
It's bad.
I'm sure you guys have facilitated that for a ton of people.
Oh yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
Really nice. And especially meeting up at like reptile shows and whatever else. You get talking with somebody and you can see their excitement. You can feed on that excitement. And even if they don't buy anything from you or whatever, if they leave that show with a new pet, like it's fantastic. Like that's rewarding in itself. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It is. I mean, that's something that, I'm sure really, helps with your hobby, because it's, at least for me too, it's always nice to talk to somebody about your hobby and try to get them excited, because in terms it like gets you more excited about it.
Right. Well, and it's so nice to have like a pretty tight knit community in the gecko world, where everybody knows each other and we can all completely nerd out about the same stuff, and we all have a lot of the same thoughts, a lot of the same husbandry, whatever else, that sort of thing. We can collaborate and everybody knows each other. You go to places like Tinley and you just have a fun time just being yourselves and really, really connecting on that hobby. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree 100%. That's awesome. So obviously it started as a hobby. It starts as a hobby for pretty much everybody. Mm-hmm. When did we make the jump to, oh yeah, we're gonna breed and sell?
Well, I mean, I guess we kind of started it right away. We kind of knew that we would, if we produced anything, we'd be selling it. To us, though, this is still a hobby. We do have full-time jobs. I work in a place that makes dietary supplements, nutraceuticals. Krystal is a school counselor at a nearby high school. So we have full-time jobs. This is still a hobby for us. We do anything that we sell and make money on is all supplemental. We don't rely on this stuff to pay the bills. And I do think that makes a big difference with certain people. Only certain couples or businesses or people can make it work full time and long term. And we definitely do want to keep this still a hobby. It's more enjoyable that way. Yeah, it seems like we have a ton of animals and everything, but being able to do it together.
Yeah.
What does that look like, man? The schedule, just you got to take care of 300 plus geckos.
Yeah. We have a pretty good mix of stuff though. And most everything is fairly easy care, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things. Crested geckos aren't too bad. Their care is fairly simple. The Chihuahua, same sort of thing. A lot of my random stuff isn't too bad either. But I mean, we're feeding crested geckos and Chihuahua and any of the diet eaters every 2 days for the juveniles, every 3 days for the adults. I'm feeding any of the insect eater, like the insectivorous only geckos a couple times a week. So really, it's not too bad to maintain. I would say that if we're combined total, maybe a couple hours a night in the gecko room, which really isn't too bad. Maybe 20 hours a week between us. And some weeks we'll work more, some weeks we'll work less, but all in all, it's really not too bad.
Definitely. I do kind of want to ask about, it appears your rack right behind you guys. Did you make that?
I did. Yeah. I had to custom build some stuff down here. I mean, we got, top level is 12 by 12 by 18s. Second level is 12 by 12 by 18s. And then down below are the, 18 by 18 by 24s. But we have low ceilings in this basement. I think it's only maybe 7'4" or 7'6" or something down here. So it's not a standard 8-foot ceiling. So I kind of had to custom squeeze some stuff into here. And that's why I didn't go with like baker's racks or anything like that. I really had to Tetris stuff into this basement.
We're big fans of do it yourself.
Yeah. Yep. And there's a good sense of pride when you put some stuff together and it comes together and works.
It works.
Yeah. A lot of trial and error over the past 15 years.
The other nice thing about our house is we actually have a shop attached to the garage. So thankfully he is very handy and can do a lot of stuff on his own and is willing to learn. So we have the space to do the construction. And since we're in Wisconsin and it's 8 degrees outside, it's heated. So I can also send him out there to go do his thing. So that's nice.
Nice.
That's very nice.
Oh yeah. If it's 8 degrees outside, I'm sure that basement is awesome.
The lattice for my chameleon enclosures, and then went over to Gabe's to use his table saw. It was literally snowing.
Yeah.
It was snowing. We froze our butts out there trying to cut this lattice.
And it was 2 feet wide by 8-foot sections of lattice. And I had stuff in the bed of my truck already, so I had to kind of wedge it into the cab, and it was hanging out the window, snow all in the truck. It was bad.
Yeah, it was a horrible day to try.
Having a workspace is definitely valuable. It's
definitely nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so I think what I would want to know is you guys obviously have a website. You're on social media for sure. How many reptile? I know you guys do Tinley. Obviously, we've talked about that, and Charles thinks he definitely saw you at Tinley. How many other reptile shows do you guys do? Do you guys do the local ones, like the Show Me shows and stuff like that?
We don't go to the Show Me shows.
Or is it the Scaled Up? I think that Wally had on his thing.
Yeah, there's a few other ones that are popping up down in southern Wisconsin and like northern Illinois and stuff. We haven't gone to any of those. Tinley's are our big ones, and that's. We may or may not vend. It just depends on how many animals we have and if we just want to go there to enjoy the show and hang out with people and meet up with friends. But the ones that we do, we'll vend the Tinleys usually. But then there's a somewhat local one down in Milwaukee called Sewerfest. Kind of a fun name, but Southeast Wisconsin Exotic Reptile Festival, whatever they call it. Expo, whatever. Did I?
did stick a
Sorry, I
landing.
don't know. Whatever. It's Sewerfest. That's all I know. But that's a really fun show because for whatever reason, Wisconsin and Northern Illinois, there are a lot of gecko people. So we meet up with a lot of friends there. We know everybody. It's great. It's just a really fun local show to go to. It's decent size. It's getting bigger. It's run by a couple of really good guys. One of them dropped out, I guess, recently, but Shane Auger is fantastic. He's a really, really good dude. But otherwise, Tinley's are the big ones. We do more sales and more stuff online than anything. We do like to go to those shows to collaborate, connect with people, talk. But in the grand scheme of things, most of our sales do come from online buyers.
Yeah, the shows for us are definitely more PR and hanging out with other nerds than selling.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, exactly, man. See, like for us, I mean, for to go to Tinley, it's for some, the same thing for us all to hang out together. So
yeah,
he's in West Virginia, so I don't get to see him very often, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and that was our biggest thing always. I mean, over the past however many years, for however many years we've been going to Tinley, like 13 or 14 years or something.
Did we
like that.
decide you went 2007?
I think maybe started going in 2007.
Yeah.
But all of the online talk and everything else, all of our friends are from afar. Up here in central Wisconsin, I mean, there's a couple reptile people around. But that's what's kind of cool about this community is people from all over the world, all over the country. You can't go anywhere without bumping into somebody or being in their hometown or something like that. So it's fun. That's what's really cool about it. But then that's also really sad about it too, because you go to Tinley and you see some of your best friends one time a year for a weekend, and it's just not long enough. It makes it a lot harder.
Oh yeah,
I agree. So your buddy Andrew, he's chiming in. He wants to ask some questions about herping. Yeah, I spoke with Andrew earlier for the first time, and he was talking about some of you guys' herping adventures. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we've gone with Andrew and Sarah a few different places, and it's been a ton of fun. Honestly, we love traveling with those guys. Most recently, I went to Costa Rica with them back in 2020. And that was pretty cool. But for anywhere in the United States, we've made a couple trips down to like Arizona and Southern California. Those were a lot of fun. Some of like the desert species and stuff, and finding sidewinders and such. But we've also taken trips to Southern Illinois. We went to South Carolina at one point and saw some really neat stuff out there. That's a hard question. Like I would love to go to Florida, like the Everglades with the Gilpins, or even like Southern Texas or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Going to Southern California and Arizona is always a good time also. But I'm just willing to travel. If I could take a 4-day weekend anywhere, I would do it, but I'm hoping that we can get together and hook up for like at least a Southern Illinois trip again this year. But really anywhere to go photograph stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah, West Virginia, man, they have some great herbs and some beautiful wilderness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm dying to go down North Carolina and see some red pygmies. So hopefully this year I'll get to do that.
Our man Mike has a question. Mike always has the best questions. But before we ask or answer his question, do you guys like fruitcake?
No, not really. I should have known that one of these questions was coming. I know AJ said that you eat one slice just for
just throw the rest away.
That's molds, you throw it away. I have a very sweet coworker. She loves to make fruit cakes and stuff, and that's how it works with that too. Like everybody has to have a piece, and then the rest just kind of goes.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, so that I had to throw that in there.
All right.
From Mike, if you had to swap collections with another breeder in the hobby, who would it be?
That's tough. We know some great breeders, and some of our great friends. Some of the guys that you've had on already. I mean, Brian Susan and AJ and Andrew and Sarah. They have fantastic collections. I mean, we envy some of the animals that they have, like, pretty hard. Gabby and Brett, they have fantastic stuff too. But I'm
still sad.
Any one of those guys, or even like somebody more local to us, actually, a big name who stays pretty underground nowadays, Phil Tremper. The stuff that he has and the success that he's had over his many decades of keeping reptiles is unbelievable. Like, he has some really neat stuff. I would love to have some of that. But honestly, like Brian Susan, he's got those monitors. He's got the fantastic Chihuahua, Bronia, the gargoyles, the leeches he has, fantastic. Andrew and Sarah have unbelievable Chihuahua. They're producing some great stuff, and they have some obscure things too, like some of the, well, maybe not so much obscure, but leaf-tailed geckos and whatnot. Man, that's a really hard question, but all those guys have really great stuff, and pretty envious of some of the stuff that they're producing. I mean, I feel like we're, I don't know, maybe, I mean, trying to be humble here and everything, modest, but maybe upper middle of gecko keepers. Some of those guys are just they're upper level. They're high up there, and they have fantastic stuff, and should be very proud of what they produce and have in their collections.
Definitely, without a doubt, for sure. Oh man, you feeling all right?
So, who, me?
Kyle.
I am hot. I am like so ready. Well, I mean, I'm one beer down, and that I just hard. Plus all the talking and being like slightly nervous and whatever else. Like, I just turned.
That's so good.
That's me. That's me. I don't know.
So
10 o'clock. There they go. It must be 10, right?
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, no, it's 9:57. My misters just went off.
Oh, the misters. Well, in about 3 minutes, Gabe's lights are going to go off.
Oh, man. Why are you going to talk about my life?
I don't know if you guys watched any of the other episodes.
Yeah.
I don't even know where my phone is, actually, because that's going to be a problem.
So, I mean, I want to... I'm awful at asking questions. The interviewer is awful at asking questions. Awful at formulating questions, but it's cool. You guys obviously focus on a lot of Chihuahua. I know I was reading on your social media and stuff that you said you do Uroplatus and stuff like that as well too. Like, that's one of your sort of. Was that right, or did I get that wrong?
Not right now. We don't. I want to get back into them again. But it's been a few years since we last had them. I think we had them for maybe a year when we moved in this house. But
Andrew says you're cute, Kyle.
Oh yeah. Thanks, buddy.
You better watch it. We'll start telling some real Herping stories.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, I heard a few earlier.
We want those stories.
I felt like I was there. He spins a web for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all true too. Like, it's not embellished. It's real stuff.
I believe it.
Now I forgot the question. Oh my god.
Well, I didn't really ask it yet. I sort of just
Uroplatus.
sort of branched off.
Good.
But
really good at stringy questions. It's like, I got a question.
I am.
First, let me tell you the small story.
But first, let me throw you completely off the scent and put you on something else.
Do you like the clean purple? Now with your geckos,
the Uroplatus though, we had them for a good number of years, and we did have success with the Fantasticus, Henkeli, the Sakura, Semedai, a few of the different species. I love them. They're one of my favorites, and they will always hold a very strong place in my heart, for real. But they are heartbreakers, and
we've heard.
I know somebody else said that. I think AJ did.
Yep.
That you will do fine with them. They'll be fantastic. You'll have a pair or a 2.2 group that just produces like crazy and is doing fantastic. And they're eating and drinking and pooing and producing babies and whatever else. And they don't calcium crash or anything like that, but all of a sudden they're just dead. And the same thing happens with the babies. They'll live for a month and be jumping around and eating and growing, and a month or 2 months in, then they just die. and nobody really knows why yet. I don't think there's a few people out there that do really well with them. A friend of ours, Christy, I always butcher her name, Kaniram, out east there. I know oh man, what the heck's his name? Sorry, there's a couple guys out in California. They do fantastic with them too. All the different species, but for whatever reason, there goes our lights.
Oh, they are behind. Nope, there it is.
Oh, yeah. But
Uroplatus
Uroplatus are absolute heartbreakers. I don't know why it happens, but after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore. Where I'm like, man, I need to work on the setup. I need to do some more research. I need to ask more questions, and then maybe get back into them again. But like I said, we had success with everything that we had, and we had beautiful animals and stuff. And then all of a sudden, they would just either stop producing, or they would die, or the babies would die, and you could just only handle that for so long. So, if somebody out there can actually figure this stuff out and be more consistent with it, and have, I don't know, I don't know what else to say about it. They're tough.
So, do you believe it's a nutritional
It might be. There might. I mean, I've always heard that there's different, not even reptile related, but I have a friend in the area. He runs a red deer farm, and he was losing. This is just a comparison. But he was losing offspring. He was losing fawn oh my God, what are they? The babies. Oh my God.
Fawn, right?
Fawns.
Yeah. I don't think they're called fawn.
Are they not? Okay.
Calves.
The calves.
Oh, calves.
Because they're like oh my God, they're like elk. But he was losing so many of them because the food around in this area it lacks selenium. So they have to give selenium injections to the hinds, the adult females.
Mm-hmm.
So then the offspring are strong. And I kind of wonder if it might be something like that with the Uroplatus. That's something that they're getting in the wild, some trace mineral that we can't provide them.
Missing.
Eventually leads to their downfall. But I don't know. That's just speculation. I have no clue. But there's something about them that most people can't pinpoint. And even some friends that we have here in Wisconsin that were doing fantastic with the Fantasticus. Then all of a sudden they would just crap out on them, and they just couldn't handle it anymore. So they're tough. They're really, really tough. But when you do actually produce them, they're super rewarding. They're so cool. The most adorable babies. They're really neat. So I would like to get back into at least like the Sakura or Samedai again. Maybe some Guntherei, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Definitely.
Gotcha.
Definitely. So, I mean, here we are, February. I'm sure you guys already got your pairings rolling and everything. What you got? Any cool projects you're excited? Maybe some colors, something, a morph you're going after, or?
Well, I mean, with the Chihuahua, we've got a really good group of like white collar Chihuahua and like high white or high white and high pink sort of animals that are producing. So we're hoping for some more of that to pop out of them.
Definitely.
As far as crested geckos go, I don't know if you guys have seen some of our stuff, but our most prized things are the like extra high white, full coverage type animals.
I was going to ask you about that, so it's good you brought it up.
That everybody asks us, are these lily whites? No, they're not. We don't actually don't work with lily whites at all. So we have a lot of pride in those, and some of the offspring out of some of our better ones are now breeding this year. So I'm hoping that we can keep those good lines rolling.
Yeah, you got anything you'd like to show?
What was that?
You got anything you want to show?
We'll see what we can do here. We'll see if we can dig out Nebula or maybe Pixie or somebody.
Nebula.
I like the Nebula.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
a couple of astro freaks over here.
Yeah, we're space nerds. Hence the big ass telescope.
Yeah.
After so many years with geckos, and if we're keeping stuff, like it has to have a name. Like that's just my
rule.
Like,
yeah.
I really run out of ideas.
Yeah.
So this year I've got 2 that I named after football players with just really random names.
Nice.
You'll have to ask Andrew and Sarah when you talk to them what their naming schemes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They're great at it. They're fantastic.
See, that's something.
What is it like Gecko 5A 5520 or something?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Barcode system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, our laptop isn't anything fancy.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, we're all running on 720p. We're limited by the streaming service. Oh wow, yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's not a lily white. That's crazy.
No.
Yeah.
Which one did you pull out?
Nebula.
Oh yeah, so this is Nebula. She's, full. Do you consider it a pinstripe? I don't really know anymore because it's such high pattern and everything that
Everything
a lot of that
together.
base coloration disappears. We do have a really nice female down with Sam Maddox of Crestopia yet that we did a breeding loan the past couple years. Her name is Hikari. She's very high white, basically baseless. She doesn't have much base coloration left. And that's kind of what our forte is, I suppose. That's what we've always been interested in, is the most extreme Harlequins possible with as much white possible.
Yeah,
That's
Mike's question.
Yeah.
So this is,
There you go.
this is Gamora. Gamora is...
Nice.
I know that name.
She started a lot of these lines.
Oh wow, her pattern is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, she's a pretty cool one.
She's a heifer, too.
Yeah, she's a big girl now. She's probably nearly
got
70.
she looks hefty.
She's got a nice
That's awesome.
Yep.
She's
And that's what we work
really
for
good
too, is the good structure. The bigger crest, the better.
Yep.
Not so much or the floppy crests. I think that's going a little bit too far, but that nice like diamond shape.
Nice diamond head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, she's gorgeous.
Yeah, so this is Gamora is the grandmother to Nebula then.
Okay.
But we got a bunch of holdbacks from those lines that we outcross to other things and keep on producing some of the highest white that we can.
Yeah.
So you almost fooled me with the names. If you would have just said Nebula, I would have never got it. So what are you, Marvel? You're Marvel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time? Yeah.
So like I said, we'll take names from anywhere. So we've got all kinds of crazy
Where'd you pull
names.
it from? Oh, this is Nebula.
Yeah.
I would pick Marvel.
So
Naming's
an easy
always
place to
something
take names
that's
from.
naming's always something that's like impossible for me. Like it's so hard.
Well, it's really hard too, actually. With, I don't want to say
320 of
common
them.
names, so sometimes we make up some names that we don't think that anybody else is going to use, because like one of them in that line is Nirvana, but there's how many different Nirvanas out there, and I think ours was, not to take necessarily credit on it, but I think ours was the first Nirvana. Chase Carmody from Zengex, he has a Nirvana. I think there's a Lily White Nirvana out there. But when people talk about Nirvana, they're like, oh, whose is it?
Which
So
one?
it's a little tough.
yeah. So we'll showcase Mike again real quick. He's got a little question for you guys. Yeah. So this is you have a preference on base color of Cresties when you breed, yellow, red, etc.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You just answered.
In general, I would say for me, base yellow.
Okay.
But
Really
I don't know. I like the lighter. But me and Krystal, if something catches our eye, we both kind of have the same thoughts. That if it's got a nice yellow or creamy base color or something, that would go with that. But even the dark or the harder contrast with like a dark base with a very bright white. One of our first lines that we started was, expanded on, was a black and white female years and years and years ago. And that kind of started some things too. Very high white patterning with a black base.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna ask, do you use like your yellow and cream because a minute ago you said you like try to go for like as like white a base as possible to make the high whites. Did you start with like a yellow creamy base to get to that high white?
Kind of. Some of that lineage was more of like a yellowish color on a dark base, and then over time, with enough selective breeding and everything, we we kind of blew out that dark base, and it started going a little bit lighter. So is this a Lepa?
Yeah.
So this is a Lepa who kind of has, I mean, she over the years she's kind of gone to almost like a reddish type base now, I suppose. But she's more of a yellow with a dark base, and she produces some real nice like light cream and white offspring with the right male. Mm-hmm. So I suppose sometimes you try something and you strike gold. You get lucky, and then you'll end up with a good hatchling or a good group out of that pairing, and you're like, man, that's awesome, that worked. Yeah. And then you kind of run with it. We have a really, really nice holdback from her from, I believe, last year or maybe late like 2020. That'll be breeding next year. Really, really high white with very light yellow undertones. And you're like, what is the real color of this gecko? So she's really pretty.
Gotcha. So I've been trying to formulate in my head what I want to ask you, and I think this is sort of something that I want to know. Personally, I want to know it. Maybe some of our viewers definitely want to know it too.
I hate to cut you off, guys. It's been a wonderful time meeting you guys. I have to run, so
is it time? Is it time?
I don't know. But hopefully we'll be able to have you guys back on, and we'll talk again definitely before Tinley this season. And you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
all right, bro.
Love you, bro. Be safe.
Love you, man. Yeah, let me know what's going on. All right.
Oh, no. Sorry. Almost ended the broadcast.
Don't do that.
Okay, let's fix this thing back to...
Oh, yeah. Wow.
There we go.
Hey, I'm supposed to be at the bottom, sir.
Okay. Let me put them at the... I don't know how to move them.
No, you're good. I'm messing with
it. Oh, there we go. I did it. There we go. I did it. You asked for it.
You know your stakes in life, huh?
Yeah. Get on the bottom, Gabe. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been keeping reptiles for a long time, but I've been in this, crested gecko game for a few years. And I guess coming from somebody who's still coming up and learning this, I want to know, like, what are the strategies? Like, what would you recommend as a strategy? I memean, you have a goal in mind. And with crested geckos, I know it's not all necessarily straightforward. Like, oh, this is het for this, and this is, codominant or whatever. We have a handful of those things, but like, what's the strategy? I mean, and if any, how much line breeding is involved? I know if it seems to be the trend that people try to stay away from that for the most part. Maybe not more than like one time or something like that.
And I think that any knowledgeable person in the crested gecko world will tell you that line breeding, we don't like doing that, obviously. I mean, if you're going to line breed for anything, it'll be to expand on a specific trait or a morph or a gene that has been found. And that's about the only real reason to. Other line breeding has been done accidentally. Somebody will accidentally put something together that, is related and something will pop that way. But in general, what we have always legitimately done is found something similar to something that we have or that we want to pair up. We'll buy it or we will wait to produce it ourselves, honestly, and then we'll put those together. So it's not line breeding. It is seriously very careful selective breeding. It takes a long time. It really does. And being, like I said, 15 years deep into this now, we have some real fantastic stuff that we're proud of that we can call our own. But I guess you just got to be patient. Find something that you like. Find something comparable. Put them together. See what happens. If it doesn't work that year, try something different the next year. And what I would always suggest, and we've been asked this, I don't know, like countless times over the years. How do you guys have such nice stuff? And how do you have such nice holdbacks? It's like, you don't sell the best of the best. You keep that.
Oh, you keep them, man.
Yeah. Like, that's your breeding stock. Like, if you want the best of the best, you keep on breeding the best of the best. That's what selective breeding is all about. So that's what I would suggest is really finding what you like, what your forte is going to be. if you have to spend the solid money to get something that matches, which is very difficult sometimes. We started off years and years ago doing trades quite a bit with other breeders that were producing some of this similar stuff just to get what we wanted to expand on those lines. But if you got to shell out some coin, I mean, spend the good money to get what you need to match what you have to produce more of what you're looking for. Again, though, it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, Crescent Gecko genetics, like you mentioned, people think they have it figured out. They really don't. I mean, some of our best stuff will still throw like a couple oddballs a season. And we're like, where'd that even come from? It doesn't make much sense, but something way, way down the line, something het for something, whatever, who knows, like some gene is expressed and you end up with an oddball. But I mean, for the most part, you can get pretty consistent.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. And so we're talking same stuff with Chihuahuas, obviously. I mean, you know, your first Chihuahuas probably didn't have those white collars. And eventually you just started producing something with, you know, a much more reduced collar, and then you kept it, and then you kept going, basically building on it to the point where you get really white collars.
Yeah, exactly. And Brian, I mean, you've seen Brian's site.
He told
stuff.
me that he has one that's like almost all white, which is ridiculous.
So he produces some great stuff. Troy Weimeister, Darnell, Michael Panoni down there in Atlanta. They all have fantastic collections. Aaron Hershey or whatever there in Chicagoland area, Tracy Saltmarsh down in California. There's some really, really good producers of Chihuahua. The problem with them is that they take so long. They're only producing, you know, 4, 6 tops of maybe 8, like very rarely offspring per year. And then they're taking, you know, 2.5, 3, 4 years to fully mature, and they may or not produce. So the Chihuahua are much tougher. They take a lot longer time, and we've been working with them since, probably 2008 or did we get our first Chihuahua in 2007?
Yeah.
So 2007-ish also. So we've been working with Chihuahua for 14, 15 years as well. And we're not even, I mean, we have barely scratched the surface with them compared to some of those other guys I just mentioned. Again, like we feel like we have a good collection of good animals and we're proud of our stock. Those guys are upper echelon, man. They're cranking out entirely different stuff, which is wonderful. It's really cool to see the difference in animals, but they just take so much longer. That selective breeding is tough.
Gotcha. Yeah. It definitely sounds tough. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like, I think you really got to love it. You really got to be dedicated to it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, really just don't give up, obviously, because like for someone like me, it's a slow process for sure. I just have to get what I can when I can, you know, and then just truck along.
And keep in mind that almost all of us have, you know, you got to start off somewhere. If you don't, that's what's really daunting about somebody that gets into this hobby, especially now with Chihuahua prices up, high-end stock of crested geckos, you know, that the prices on them is crazy too. So you can't just jump into the hobby and spend $4 or $5 grand on a nice pair. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah, not everybody, for sure.
Most of us, you know, that have been around for 10, 12, 14, 15 years, whatever, longer, we have developed our collections and built on our own stuff. And we kind of have that leg up that we have so much time in it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it just, everybody does things in their own time. So I applaud you guys. You guys have stuck with it and done really good. You got some really cool stuff for sure. Anything in particular, Sir Gabe, that you'd like to ask?
Well, I don't know. I know that he works with Chihuahuas and
Chihuahuas, Cresteds, did work with Uroplatus, works with some.
Do you work with anything else? I know this is mostly a gecko podcast, but do you have anything else that that's non-gecko related?
So a lot of the times I mostly joke that we have a zoo. Because we don't have kids. So especially like for my job, I work at a high school. So sort of the running joke is I have 350 kids and then I go home to no kids, which is really
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
So, and I grew up, I spent a lot of time on my grandparents' dairy farm. So reptiles and amphibians weren't as big in my life as a kid. Mostly cats, dogs, cows, things like that. So it was really hard to be in college. Like all we had were the reptiles. And I would just like look at pictures of dogs all day long. So when I start explaining the zoo, I kind of start top down. So we have 3 dogs. We have 3 Catahoulas, which is it's a southern breed, more common in Louisiana and Texas.
Okay.
So we have those. Then we currently have 4 cats. So
don't put any ideas in my girls.
And cats are overpopulated. It's a huge issue, especially when you start talking about reptiles. So we've always gotten them from shelters, but
Sure.
I broke down and bought a Bengal kitten. So so we have a Bengal kitten. She's about 16 weeks now, so that's been very entertaining.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, it's super acrobatic. She's pretty high strung.
Yeah, she's
Yeah. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Then this spring, I realized that we'd been spending so much time in the gecko world and the selective breeding of crusteds and chewies and stuff that I didn't realize betas or betta fish, that whole market has exploded.
Oh, yeah.
And so earlier this spring, I went a little crazy. So right now I have 4. I have 2 males, 2 females. I have 3 beta tanks running. I have some snails, some mystery snails. 2 of my fish tanks are at school. 1 fish tank is upstairs. So we have those. And then we have 3 chinchillas. They have their own room. They have the chinchilla room. It's a colder room. This fall I had taken in a wayward gerbil. So he was chilling in the chinchilla room. And what am I missing? We had a wayward anole for a while that hitchhiked from Georgia. They figure in the back of a pickup truck last winter.
Wild ride.
We had him for a while. We've just had some other random
that was
stuff.
definitely a while.
Yeah.
We had a Bronia for a while.
I got
We
you.
had,
We had Bearded Dragon for a little while.
Oh man, I really love the Abronia, man. I'd love
they're
nothing
really
more
cool.
than to get into those guys. That would be really cool.
And then if I really want to freak people out, I tell them that we have like 20,000 roaches. And so to see their reaction is a lot of fun, especially at school, because people they don't think about that. So I'm like, well, we have the cats, the dogs, the chinchillas, the fish, the geckos, and the roaches. And they're like, roaches? I'm like, yeah, we have like 3 different species. So sometimes we'll have mantids.
Yeah, we work with a bunch of different stuff. Just kind of dabble in things.
Sure.
But
animal people in general.
Yeah, overall, we really, breeding and whatever else is mostly just geckos. We never, we're not opposed to other things. We're not huge snake keepers. Not that Krystal doesn't really care for them. I would love to have them. I like finding them in the wild and everything, but we wouldn't. They would just be for a pet. But other different lizard species, I wouldn't mind having like some like tree frog species, like Amazonian tree frogs, or like the fringed leaf frogs and everything.
Yep.
Oh yeah, man. You know what?
Luciohylas, those are really awesome.
Lately, I've been wanting some milk frogs so bad.
Yeah.
Milk frogs are so gorgeous.
Or even mossy frogs or anything like that. There's some really neat stuff out there. I wouldn't, or even dart frogs. Dart frogs are really dang cool. They're such cool display animals. But we've never really dabbled in that. We really do just focus on the geckos pretty much. Everything else is just like a pet or something that we try out. And then we revert right back to having all geckos again.
Yeah, they're just
I hear you. So. Yeah, it makes sense. So we were talking about, your selective breeding and stuff. And then Mike asked a question like, what percentage are you holding back each season? Or is it not a set percentage, just what you like the best?
It seems to be more and more every year.
Or is it just everything? You're just like,
no. Well, that actually gets harder and harder every year because we are proud of what we produce. Yeah, I know. I'm a hoarder.
He's a hoarder,
but
he has attachment issues.
I gotcha.
But we're producing such nice stuff, and we're really proud of that. That it's hard to let go of some of it. Like,
yeah,
you don't know necessarily exactly how it's going to change, and you're like, well, maybe I'm going to hold back these 4, and then they turn out really nice, and you don't want to let any of them go. But in general, we've always tried to hold back the best or the best and the second best, and then sell the others. Give others opportunity to buy into those lines and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a percentage. It's usually 1, maybe 2 per pair that we end up holding on to for future breeding stock.
Okay. Now,
we also don't want to be producing a whole lot either, because, like I said, we have full-time jobs. We do this still as a hobby and just kind of a side venture.
Sure.
That we don't want to have 50 breeding crested geckos. 10, 12, 14 pairs max is really about all we work with.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from a perspective of an absolutely tiny collection compared to most everybody we've spoken to. I have around 45 or so. That includes the last year's offspring that I still have. And I'm breeding 3 pairs of crested geckos this year and 1 pair of gargoyles. It's my biggest year since I started the Gecko Galaxy.
And that's totally okay. There's nothing
and
wrong
it's going to be quite a few, even just from those 3 pairs. It's going to be quite a few for me. For what I have time
potentially
for,
could be.
Yeah.
You start producing, I mean, I would say on average, we're maybe producing 120 to 140 offspring per year.
Like a
which
year.
Is plenty. I mean, that's more than enough for us to deal with. And like I said, for 6 months of the year, we can't ship anyway from it because we live in central Wisconsin. That we have racks and racks of things that hatched late fall and into the winter that can't go anywhere. So we're sitting on a ton of extra animals, and it can be a little daunting. We want to have good life balance, and this isn't our only hobby. We really enjoy going fishing and being out in the boat and swimming and stuff with dogs.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing takes a lot of precedence in the summer months, and you're not going to see much from us. We don't do a lot of posting, and we kind of go off the radar for 3-4 months when the weather's nice. So we don't want to have a huge collection, but sometimes it is really hard to let go of the nicer stuff because you want that to be your future.
Yeah. Well, that's important. You really got to find that balance, man. I mean,
a question I want to ask, so what size would you say that you would be like, all right, like this one is for sure I'm keeping? Because sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, these geckos, I mean, they will really change, from
when they're
babies to a full-grown adult. So, do you just end up keeping everything till it's like almost adult, or like how do you determine? Because
usually I take the lead on that because I think I spend more time, especially like crested geckos, looking at crested geckos online and just seeing what's out there and comparing and contrasting. So I feel like I've gotten to the point where when something hatches out, I can tell it's going to be good. Gotcha. Maybe not exactly why, but I've learned to trust my intuition on that. So usually we know if it's going to be good or not. Sometimes we'll hold stuff back and it'll completely change. As far as sexing things, that's really his forte. Chihuahua, it's just a whole different discussion because they hatch out. We joke they're brown turds when they hatch out. So you can put the nicest, like we have a bunch of really nice pastel chewies, not necessarily have a white collar, but just have really nice pinks and greens, super pastel. And they hatch out and you're like, well, what the hell is that? You won't know until 30 grams, when it's a year and a half old, what it might look like as an adult, and it's half grown.
Yeah, exactly. So,
so that's tough.
Crested geckos, we can really start to tell like what we want to hold back and everything. A lot of time, no joke, a lot of times now, like straight out of the egg, like, nope, that's a keeper. But by 3 or 4 grams, a few months in, or whatever, that we know what we want to keep. Sometimes we
Gotcha.
will hold on to stuff a little bit longer until we know for sure what the gender is. Because if we have a specific path for that gecko and it ends up being a male and we needed a female, like that's when we'll release some of that stuff where we're like, no, this didn't pan out.
Right.
Which is kind of unfortunate that it comes down to gender sometimes, but again, we don't want to breed, absolutely everything. That gets a little hard.
Gotcha. Yeah, my experience with Chihuahua is limited. I mean, I have a pair of Pine Islands that I got over time. I got a male, and then later on, I got a female, and I'm raising them up. But I wonder, like on average, like I know you guys are up in a colder area, and it's probably a slower process up there to get them to grow. And it's funny because I think I got my male around 4 or 5 months, and then I got my female around 8 months, and they were like both over 30 grams when I got them. So I don't know where they came from, but well, I know my male came from right here where I live. I live in western West Virginia, so I mean it definitely gets cold here, and we have winter like normal.
Ours, I would say that all of our stuff reaches maturity. I mean, some people they'll grow their geckos fast. Like ours have never been that way. We can feed insects. We can turn up the heat. We can do whatever. And I sometimes I just feel like it's a central Wisconsin or northern type climate sort of thing that slows things down. Maybe it's just being down here in the basement and they don't get the right photo period or something. I don't know the actual explanation. But all of our animals, whether it's Chihuahua or Lychees or crested geckos or anything, they all reached like full-blown maturity and size and everything in like 3 years. So we never have a problem with that. We know that it's going to take 3 years before we breed this animal anyway. Crested geckos, they make weight by that time. The Chihuahua, they do also, but very rarely you're going to see, a 40-gram Chihuahua from us that is only a year old. It just doesn't happen here.
I gotcha.
And
okay.
I don't. Again,
well, I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think it goes, you can relate it back to when people were I mean, it still happens, I'm sure, but power feeding snakes and things like that. So, I mean, you like you said, you can feed them more and they don't seem to grow any faster anyway, but you're not necessarily trying to rush anything. If there's anything that this part of the hobby that has taught me since I've just been exclusively dealing with the New Caledonian stuff is it's just patience. Just, and if I could tell anything to anybody from what I've learned, which is not very much, it's just be patient. Don't rush,
Yeah, and these animals live a long time. I mean, Chihuahua, we don't know their full life expectancy, but it's 15 to 20 years easily. Same with crested geckos in the right care. Like, if it takes 3 or 4 years before you breed them, like, it's fine. Like,
you still got a lot of life in that.
Yeah, if there's any advice that I would have too is don't rush it. I mean, make sure that your animals are healthy, happy, of size, of age, and then put them together for breeding, because that can take a toll on their bodies. Chihuahua, especially with the calcium reserves and whatever else, they can crash real hard. Crested geckos, they can drop weight real fast. Even crested gecko males, sometimes they'll just go off of feeding, and if
I've had it happen.
Yeah, they won't eat, and they'll drop a whole ton of weight. I think we had one that basically over the course of 2 or 3 months, just because I think he just wanted to breed. That was all there was to it. Like he went from like 44 grams down to like 22 in a matter of weeks. And it was like, man, what the heck is happening? And it was all because we pulled him away from the female. He was just angry. He wouldn't eat. And it can take a toll on the males also. Here's Rue.
Hey.
She wanted to say hi. This is one
Rue.
of the Gattahools.
Beautiful. Yeah, from what I can see.
Oh, man, I love puppies. We're getting ready to move. Where we live, we can't have dogs.
Oh,
and
no.
we are so excited.
Yeah.
Because in the next two and a half months, something like that, we'll be moving.
She's front heavy.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
And we'll actually be able to get a puppy. Look at that. He's gorgeous.
She's super excited to be on camera, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally. She's
That's
born
awesome.
in October. She's still pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
She's a
tiny.
cutie. A real pain in the butt.
For sure.
Having young puppies is crazy. But yeah, what was I going to say? I can't remember. So, on the subject of breeding Chihuahuas, we talked to Brian about this a little bit, but in your experience, how hard is it to pair your Chihuahuas? When you decide you have this one, you got this one, you want to pair it to, and then the time comes. How much trouble do you have? I mean, how common is it for you to have fights and things like that?
I wouldn't say very common, honestly. We've had a couple real harsh ones.
Yeah.
We did lose a female a couple years ago that she got beat up pretty bad. And it happened so suddenly. I mean, within a couple days, she was gone. We had another one that got scarred up pretty bad. The male was chewing on her head, her face, and we caught her in time. We pulled her out, and she recovered and everything just fine.
Yeah,
they're
heal
really
well.
resilient.
Yeah.
But Chihuahua, you can put them with a different mate every year. Is it going to be successful every year? Likely not.
Probably not.
Kind of like leechies, they do kind of pair bond, and the most powerful ones are going to be the powerful producers. Most consistent are ones probably that you do year after year after year and keep together. We do like to mix and match and try different things, though. Our production may not be as high because of that. We a lot of times don't end up with a lot of good eggs from those trial pairings. But do we end up with a lot of fighting or deaths or anything like that? Not really. I think those couple instances that I mentioned.
In Tanis last year.
Oh, yeah. Those couple instances, 2 or 3 or 4 times maybe in our time of keeping Geckos, Chihuahua,
Gotcha.
have we had any real major issues? But they're tough. I mean, they can be ferocious animals. They can be cage aggressive and territorial, just like leechies or something. They have very powerful jaws. They have a heck of a bite. And they can get pretty big. I mean, we have a couple females that are over 90 grams. They are real solid Chihuahua, and you put it too small of a male with one of those big girls, and she's going to eat them up. It happens. So, or in the other instance, if you have too big of a male or too, not even just too big, but too powerful, one that really wants to breed, like way too active. We put one with a female last year, and he destroyed her.
I'm sure personality has to do a lot.
Yep. And we caught that one in time also, and she recovered just fine. But I mean, you really have to pay attention to them. Yeah, it's easier to do with a smaller collection and a couple pairs or whatever. But I mean, we've got a decent sized group going here, and even guys like Brian or Andrew and Sarah, they have pretty big Chihuahua collections that when they are putting stuff together, they got to pay pretty close attention and monitor things. Otherwise, they can run into some pretty serious issues.
Yeah. So when you do get eggs from Chihuahuas, when everything goes right and it's successful, I know they're big time bug eaters, like compared to some of the other New Caledonians. They'll eat the other food, but are you doing any extra supplementation for Chihuahuas for calcium other than just dusting insects?
Not really. No. I mean, they do eat a little bit more during the breeding season. They're really pounding like the Rapashi or Pangea diets and whatnot, but we don't add anything different to that because we do want to stay a good balance of nutrients the way that it was designed. Yes. And if you start adding stuff to that, it changes the flavor and they eat less. So over the past few years, we have been really hitting the Chihuahua harder with dusted insects, whether that's dubia roaches. We do feed lobster roaches, and we order a lot of crickets during like the warmer months. During the winter here, we don't order anything because it's nearly impossible to get anything to us alive.
Yeah.
So,
gotcha.
But yeah, we are feeding the Chihuahua a lot more insects to make sure that they do have that higher calcium boost.
Right.
And no matter what you do, I think that Brian maybe even mentioned in his video that with Chihuahua, because of that nutrient draw, the females, maybe a couple days before they're about to lay, their tail will start to get wavy. Their hips will start to shrink. Their neck and head kind of look skinny. And then all of a sudden they'll drop eggs. A few days later, they'll eat and everything will straighten back out and they'll look great. It really doesn't take long for them to recover so long as they're healthy to begin with. But making sure that they are properly supplemented is huge to their health, because they can go downhill very quickly.
Mike
Very cool.
asked a pretty good question, I guess. What do you use for gut loading?
For gut loading?
Yeah, for gut loading.
Do you want to talk about that?
No.
I do a lot of different fruits, vegetables. I mix in chicken feed. So the chicken crumbles for the protein. So I'll mix a lot of that sort of stuff in. But overall, really good about good fresh vegetables and whatever else for the gut load. And even we'll order the Repashy bug burger. Bug burger is a good one. All of the crickets and roach species and stuff eat that very readily also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's actually something I need to try, that bug burger. I usually just do just a lot of like greens and sweet potato and carrots and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seems to work for us. I think that's okay. Our collections of I'm no what is the word even, nutrient analysis type person or whatever. Like,
like a nutritionist.
I'm not a big scientist on that sort of thing. I don't know if what we're doing is 100% correct, but our colonies of roaches like survive and they produce really well and everything. And I'm assuming that if we're feeding them that stuff, that they're getting what they need to live and probably passing that on properly.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be leaps and bounds better to what, the general, like, keeping one or two reptile community at large feeds, because they're probably going to the pet store buying bugs and then feeding them, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You don't know what they ate.
Empty shell, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Could be anything. They might have had some good food at some point. They might not,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
The other thing that we do for the bugs is, both of us are pretty intense nature warriors. I don't know how else to say that, but so we try to keep everything sustainable. So a long time ago, we started using contact cases.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes more time because you have to take them out and wash them, but it's all reusable instead of, a lot of the bigger breeders, just to save on time, will use plastic cups that they end up throwing away. We try to recycle and that kind of thing. So after and we have enough of these that we do a rotation. So when we take all of these out, how many are end up being, like a couple hundred?
Something like that.
We throw them in with the roaches, and then the roaches clean up the leftover CGD.
There you go.
A lot of CGD.
Goes right back into it.
Also.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. So it doesn't really go to waste.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention about breeding chewies is even the nicest females can become pretty aggressive about protecting their eggs. So we have a pretty good system where I get up first in the morning because I have a longer drive to school work. So I come down, check everybody out, and then when he gets up, I give him like the reptile report. And if there's eggs, then he's the one who has to get them because I don't want to get bit.
So I'm the guy that gets my fingers bit every time.
It's perfect system. I highly recommend it to anybody.
Oh, so they'll actually bite you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they're very protective of their eggs. They'll lay over them and guard them. One of the best ways they keep them away is diversion, to use a piece of paper or something, or a business card or note card or something, or even
reach in there and snag them,
even like a spatula or something to keep them away. Reach in and grab them. I mean, that's the way that they do it.
Yeah, they get pretty big. I can imagine that'd be
they'll draw blood. They have some good little teeth on them. They're impressive.
Yeah, the geckos that I have that bite the most, it seems like, are my gargoyles. I don't know if y'all see that too. They just are. They don't have a very high tolerance for being messed with, really. Like, I mean, you can hold them on your hand as long as you're not actually touching them with your other hand. You start doing that, you get growled at, and then you're getting bit.
Hey, you got Quirk too, huh?
What was that?
He's got one called Quirk too.
Oh yeah, my first male crested gecko that I got him as a little baby. And I raised him up, and he got up to size, and I got a female for him, and then I bred him. And ever since the first time he was paired up, he is awful. you walk by the enclosure and he's just like, bam, right at the front. And I have to like distract him with one hand, grab him with the other one, stick him in a bin while I clean his thing out. Otherwise, I'm getting bit. Yeah.
We have certain ones that are that way too. That's for Krystal, Geckos, Chihuahua, Lychees, everything. Like there are just some that are just jerks. You're like, why? So you know which cages to not reach into right away. You got to look for them, otherwise they'll come out of nowhere and they'll tag you. But I do remember that we used to have a pair of Pine Isle or Isle E Lychees. Mm-hmm. And they were absolute menaces. They were nuts. Like you could not be in the room without them doing that low throaty growl, and they were just angry at all hours of the day. It's like, oh, you guys suck. But they produced really. We ended up selling them off to a friend, and they produced super well. Like for whatever reason, they were a great pair, but they were just way too cranky. I wouldn't handle them without gloves. Actually, like I've never had to do that for any other gecko that we own ever, and I would not go anywhere near that cage without gloves on.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I wouldn't want to get bit by a big old Lychee. That's for sure.
Yeah, I got a cranky. The only animal I got that's cranky like that is my female tegu. But
sure.
She just always thinks it's always dinner time. That's all it is.
Well, your cat thinks it's dinner time too.
Yeah, goodness.
Oh yeah, she thinks Hey, go somewhere with
Very
that
loud.
tea.
So what else do you guys work with? What else do you guys work with? What else?
So I mean, these days, I mean, I used to dabble in everything. You know, in high school, I had my bedroom in my parents' house lined with tanks. You know, Savannah monitor, bearded dragon, leopard gecko, gray banded king snake, corn snakes. Couple of box turtles that my mom had mowed over with the lawnmower, but didn't actually hit with the lawnmower. They were small enough. Yeah. You know, just little things like that. Sure. I mean, and then I bred bearded dragons and western hognose and corn snakes and Everglades rat snakes and leopard geckos. Nice. But now it's just I would say not just New Caledonian geckos. Fairly recently, within the last 6 months or so, I got a pair of Central American banded geckos.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I really like them. They're kind of like mini leopard geckos. And they almost have like a monitor-like personality, the way they move about the cage. Everything's very deliberate, and they're looking around, you know?
Yeah. And they pound a ton of insects.
They pound a ton of food, yeah.
Yeah, we have just really one. I can't remember. I can't remember which species it is, but we got it from Nathan Hall years ago, and he's still doing fine, and we were never going to pair it up or anything. It's just for show.
Yeah. I have a pair, and they've produced a couple of clutches of eggs. Unfortunately, I don't have an incubator that I can set to the right temperature right now, so they just keep. I haven't done anything with it yet.
Yeah. But self-incubating, you'll have an incubator.
Yeah,
what about you, Gabe? What do you all keep?
Well, you know, I consider myself like a hobbyist. You know, I don't. It's for fun. So I do have like crested geckos. I got some gargoyles and stuff too. But I like the big lizards, man. Sure. I truly like. I like the big herps. I always have. Okay. So you know, I got one baby reticulated python that I'm raising up. I do have a big berm that's in here. Okay. I got a pair of tegus. I got an Asian water monitor.
Gotcha.
Like my baby. I love
so
that.
You're all over the place. You're not just geckos only.
Yeah, man. Like I think that you just gotta enjoy it. For me, it's I enjoy having different animals. You know, like back when I started, you know, I did that. You know, like having like ball pythons and stuff, and you got basically tubs full of the same snake, it's just in different color and stuff like that. Mm. But for me, I don't know. I like having just a little bit of everything. I guess like I would like to have like an ARK, I guess, a pair of everything.
And that's really good actually as a hobbyist, you know, to kind of dabble in different things. It's harder for people like us that want to focus on just geckos, like, and then you try to mix in tortoises and bearded dragons and everything else that has all separate care. At least
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, we can at least streamline what we're doing because most stuff eats the same stuff. It has very similar care. It's really hard to expand beyond that sometimes because you may not have the space, you may not have the proper setup, you may not have a hot enough room. In the past, we've tried some of like the Australian type geckos or ground like Nephurus species and whatnot, and we didn't do well with them. We just didn't. We didn't have the right setups, so it's really It's really hard when you're focused on a certain group, like the New Caledonian geckos are kind of bulletproof. I mean, you can go with any of the X-Rack species, you know, the Urodactylodes, the Bavia, and everything else. You know, they all have very similar care. You start expanding into stuff like what you have, Gabe. You know, it's a lot harder because you're all over the board.
No, that's what I'm so excited about this movie. More space for more stuff.
Yeah, right.
No, I really like my Asian water monitor, man. Like I am like looking forward to just building this massive enclosure, man.
Basically a room. Cool. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Why not?
You have to.
I want to
much have to. You don't have much of a choice.
That'd be awesome.
So, I figured just a kind of a fun question and I'll pose it to both of you. So, if you had to only keep one species of reptile, we'll limit it to that as opposed to just animal, and you could only choose one, what would it be?
For me, well, I'll just keep a genus, but I really like the Phelsuma.
Okay. Day geckos.
You know, and I used to keep one in my office and a little bit more active for the kids to see during the day and that kind of thing. But they're super inquisitive. We don't have any of the neons right now, but I have friends who post about them every day, just coming out for the food. Mm-hmm. I think they're super fun. So for me, it would be Phelsuma for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's a good call actually, and I kind of thought about that. As I was thinking about this whole podcast and everything, like how would I even answer something like that? And the Phelsuma are a really cool group. I mean, the day geckos, they're out during the day.
Right. That's something you don't get with a lot of geckos.
Cool setup for them, and they're bright, vibrant colors, and they're inquisitive and like some of the neatest videos that you see are those people like in Hawaii that are at the resorts and stuff, and like
they like put little things.
A whole group of gold dust will come up and eat like their applesauce out of their hand. So those are really neat. But I mean, if I had to keep anything, seriously, it's such a hard question for me because we've kept some pretty cool stuff over the years.
Full on nerd.
Yeah, we've kept some really cool stuff over the years. But I really do. I mean, Chihuahua are one of the top. I really love Chihuahua, but I also really love Uroplatus sakurae. And one of my favorites that we have in our collection right now, and Krystal's like, I don't know why you deal with those weird things. They're freaking fast and they're strange. But I have the Gekkonidazed Oscriber prianorum.
That's what Andrew said you had to mention earlier in the chat.
Yeah.
and what is that common name wise? I'm not familiar with that.
It is the St. Martin's thick-tailed gecko, I believe.
Okay.
Nobody knows what they are.
But there's not many of them around. They're pretty rare. But I mean, when I first saw them, I was like, I gotta have those. So I got a small group of those, and I find them beautiful. They're really cool. They're rewarding, but they're a challenge. So either the Gekkonidazed species are pretty cool. The Rapicata too, I've seen in the wild, and those are pretty neat. And I have some here. But as far as like keeping forever and to choose just one, honestly, I think it would probably be the Chihuahua because there's so much variety and variability and everything else. And, you know, the selective breeding aspect of it too. You're not going to go anywhere with like a Uroplatus for selective breeding. Like you're going to produce more leaf tails. Like there is that polymorphism or whatever where you're going to see some different stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, Chihuahua are just way more interesting in the long run.
Yeah, they are pretty mind-blowing. It's a good choice for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. You say too that, you know, you've been you've obviously been some really cool places and seen some really cool things in the wild, and I think that really sort of brings it to a whole nother level as a keeper, because you're used to what you see, and then you see something in the wild and you kind of have an idea of what it might be, but it just blows your mind. I've had it happen a few times.
Yeah.
We were on an island. I went on a school trip to Belize, so we were on a little island doing diving and stuff, and I was looking hard. I mean, by little island, I mean little, man. It was very little. It's probably the length of my entire apartment. It was tiny. And I was looking hard for herps, and we found this big gecko. And at first I was thinking, man, is that a tokay? Did a tokay end up here somehow? Because it was kind of bluish with a lot of orange on it, but it wasn't. It was the St. George's Island gecko or something, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And it was so cool. I mean, he was just huge. I mean, he was big, and it was just really cool to find that.
There's some cool stuff out there. I mean, there's so many cool species that aren't in collections either, I follow some different guys on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that they're herpers down in like Australia, and even just some of the Strophaurus species that aren't in the hobby, or you see some of that stuff that pops up even with the Urodactylodes species. A few years ago, we didn't have the Occidentalis, we didn't have the Symmetricus, we didn't have that stuff. We had the Agricoli and the Velardi. And where did these all of a sudden come from? It's kind of cool what's out there, and just the variety. And I think that's what's so appealing about geckos too, is that, I mean, look at how many different species we have in the hobby that you can get. That's what's really neat.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's it seems like every day you learn of something new.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. There's some interesting stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been great. I think maybe we'll start moving towards the way of wrapping it up, I think.
Krystal just left to let the dogs out. They were getting
it's no problem.
Whiny upstairs.
I understand. Trust me. I got the one you saw is our young one. We have a really old Boston Terrier. She's like 15, and she's still comfortable. She's not like bad off or anything, but she is getting to the point where if you don't let her out immediately when she has to go out, she will just pee. Yeah. So you got to really stay on top of it.
She looks like something off of Pet Cemetery. Like, I'm not lying. I'm just saying.
She looks rough in her old age, but she's still very active, and she still does everything. She can still do stairs. She's not uncomfortable, I don't think. She eats. She goes to the bathroom. She asks for attention. She's still a sweet dog. Yeah. She was my first dog, like, by myself as an adult person, Yeah. So she holds a special place in my heart. But yeah, man, we really enjoyed having you guys on. We
enjoyed doing this. This is fun.
Hopefully it was fun for y'all too. Yeah,
can totally nerd out over geckos and talking about reptiles and stuff. There's so much more that we can talk about, obviously, but
there really is. Yeah. And we're evolving in this, and trying to get better about figuring out what to ask you guys when we get you on, so we can really dig into stuff, and sort of give what the people who watch our videos an insight, from people who've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah,
and I think you did a lot of that tonight, and that's good.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there's always one thing that I always like to tell people, honestly, is we're the type of people that if you're gonna, feel free to ask us questions. I mean, shoot us a message, Instagram, Facebook, email, right through the website, anything. Like, if you have a question, ask us. If we don't know the answer, we'll help you out as best as we can to point you in the right direction. Like, we want people to succeed. We want people to be knowledgeable. We want everybody to enjoy this. And one of the biggest lessons that you can ever learn is, some of the biggest lessons that you can learn are from the longtime keepers. Like, don't hesitate to ask questions. It's there. There's information there.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like most people who really are in the hobby for the love of the hobby, even if they've been doing it for a long time, they just want to talk about this stuff. That's really all we think about,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. I mean, it consumes. Look at how much of this consumes our lives. It's become part of us over the years. And like I said, our best friends are across the world. Like, just because we connect on this, so it's rewarding.
For sure. Yeah, and speaking of your website, you guys are obviously Gekkonidazed Geckos. I know that that you go into the fact that maybe everybody's like, wait, how do you say that?
Yeah.
But it's a cool play on the Geckonidae name,
Yep.
the Latin name, which is awesome. We love it. So he said they have Facebook, Instagram, they have their own website. Check those out. We have them in the description below this video. So if you're watching now, check them out. If you watch later, they're there for you too. So yeah, go look at the stuff that Kyle and Krystal are doing. It's really awesome. You guys got some really nice Chihuahuas, and I mean basically everything you have is nice. So
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And he was being very modest earlier, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
I mean, modesty is key, man. I feel like I'm always that way. I mean,
Yeah.
people in my little circle and my friends and family always say, "Wow, your geckos are so pretty," and I'm like, "Yeah, they could definitely be better." I've only been doing it for a few years, so they're going to do nothing but get better. But yeah,
a big thing for us, honestly, and it's a lesson I learned from an OG keeper years and years ago, is that have humility. Don't be that shit talker. Don't have a big head. Don't have a big ego. And you'll stick around, and people will appreciate you more for it. So
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a really good lesson. Not that we were going to be those type of people anyway, just naturally, but I mean, really have some humility, know where you stand, be able to admit fault, and know that everybody makes mistakes. So, and there's always something to learn. So,
we're all human.
Yeah, exactly. So those are some real good lessons that we learned long ago, and I always try to pass those on, man. Like it's part of this hobby.
Yeah, and that's excellent advice for sure. Yeah, you gotta have humility. You gotta be humble. You gotta be willing to learn. Always. You never figure it all out. You're always.
And this hobby's always changing. There's always a curveball. There's always something new. So
it's like
absolutely.
I've said before, like every day I realize I know less.
Well, every time we do an episode, I learn something. I love it.
Yeah, every day.
And we wanted to, we really want to focus on having guests on like you guys, because we're not experts on anything, and we don't want to pretend to be. That's the big thing. We want our audience.
I mean, even after 15 years of doing this, like I'm not saying that we're experts by any means.
Oh no, obviously,
we have our own experiences, and we've had our hard lessons and done things wrong, and have progressed and learned ourselves, and we're in a good spot, I think. But it took some time too.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, obviously. We hope it can be, these videos can be a source of not only entertainment, but a way for, if somebody happens to find them, and as we get more of an audience, just a place where somebody can come and get information from very experienced keepers, as opposed to just doing a YouTube search and clicking on the first 8-minute video that pops up, how do you care for your crested gecko or whatever. So they might be right. It might not, Yeah. Our big thing is getting people to focus on doing their research properly. And if part of your research is going to be watching videos, definitely watch a lot of them, look a lot and do that. So yeah.
All good.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah,
it's been fun. We love talking about it. So we would do it. We would do it again in a heartbeat. We like.
Okay, great. Yeah. We're always definitely thinking about the possibility of doing repeat guests. We can try to focus on some different stuff when we have you on again. That'd be great.
Yeah. As things progress, we wish you guys good luck in this.
Thank you.
Fantastic forum and good questions and everything. I wish you guys success also.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Yeah, and you guys definitely continue success. Hopefully, we will see you guys at Tinley in October.
Absolutely, yeah, we look forward to it.
We definitely will see them.
Okay.
Yeah, I always say hopefully. I'm always like, maybe. It's a lot of logistics to work out with. He's like, I'm going. Charles might be having a baby right now, so his mind might change in about a week.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Tops. We both have kids. You know how it is.
We already talked. We actually had this conversation like a day ago. We were like, she's coming with us this time if we can.
Bring it. I love your daughter. She's awesome. Bring it.
She's crazy.
Our kids aren't coming. My son's insane. So
All
we'll bring
right,
him when he's a little older and he can really enjoy it. So all right, we're definitely wrapping it up. We're gonna stop going on tangents. I'm gonna try it. Can I try it?
Yeah, you should try.
I think I have it figured out. So Charles always does the outro. I don't know how many times you watch these, but he's got his little thing figured out. But he's not here tonight. So here we go. Thank you so much again, Kyle and Krystal from Gekkonidazed Geckos, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And again, to our viewers, if you want to visit their social media and their website, all the links are in the description. Just look for Gekkonidazed Geckos. So I've been hanging out. Kyle and Krystal have been hanging out. Gabe's been hanging out.
I'm hanging out for sure.
You guys are hanging out. This has been Reptile Hangouts podcast. Thank you very much. You guys have a great night. Thanks for coming.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.